Welcome to another episode of Heated Conversations. Excited to be on the podcast again. We have a guest who's all the way out east, another Division III school. We have Kim Valenti, who's here on the podcast. She's the head coach of Ursinus College, to talk about her program, hear her story and her journey and how she got to the point where she is, and what are some of the goals that she has for her team and some of the values that she's instilling in her team. Kim, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yes, absolutely. In this December, how's the weather out over where Ursinus is? And also, for those who may not know, where exactly are you guys located out east?
Yeah, so Ursinus is located just 25 miles outside of Philadelphia. So southeastern Pennsylvania, right in the mid-Atlantic. Personally, I think it's one of the best locations you could have. Weather right now, we're actually getting some strange snow flurries, which I say strange, but it's not that atypical for December. We do get four seasons really nicely here. We get that fall foliage. We do get some snow, but then spring comes and it's, beautiful blooms. And then we have a nice hot summer. So it's kind of the perfect four seasons.
Yeah. Now, for you, what was kind of some of the things that attracted you to come to Ursinus in regards to just the location and even the campus, the school, the university, and not necessarily gymnastics related, but what were some of those outside things that kind of drew you to Ursinus?
Yeah. So I've been in the Philadelphia area since about 2011. Um, I was an assistant coach at Temple University. I was an assistant coach at the University of Pennsylvania. So both kind of right in Philadelphia. I worked in the athletic department for a little bit at the University of Pennsylvania. So when this job opened in 2018, I admittedly had been really missing the gymnastics side of my life. I was in an administrative role at Penn and couldn't help but feel like I gotta apply for this and I gotta, see this out. Ursinus was a school that, both of my prior coaching stints had competed with. So I had known of the program, known of the college, but had never, truly been around the area, been around the campus. When I interviewed that summer of 2018, I admittedly fell in love with the area. It's kind of the perfect mix of you have the city nearby. I still live in the city of Philadelphia. My husband and I have a row home in South Philly. I do the reverse commute, the 25 miles out to the suburbs. But here in Montgomery County, it's, Collegeville is where Ursinus is located, and it's a college town.
Yeah.
Um, it's got a cute little main street. It's right next to another town with a great main street. But it's a suburban area. And it's a wonderful place to go to college. The campus is beautiful. It's small, it's quaint. It has a true campus, but you can kind of be end to end in 10, 15 minutes walking. And to me, that's kind of an ideal college situation. Beautiful green grass. We have 140 acres total on campus. So yeah, really, it's just to me kind of the quaint college experience.
Yeah. Is the college is it a big university in regards to enrollment, undergrad enrollment, as well as even just the landscape of how the classrooms and the buildings are set up? Are they pretty spread out, or is it kind of pretty central? Kind of describe the campus, not necessarily demographics, but just kind of how it looks structurally.
Sure. So we are a college. We're not a university. We don't have any graduate programs. It's undergrad only. And we're a small college. We're right around 1,500 students. So it's a very small school. You have to want that environment, but I can tell you it's a tight knit community like I've never seen. It's about 50% student athlete population as far as our enrollment's concerned because we sponsor 26 varsity sports. So it makes for a really fun, competitive, I'll say athletic mindset on campus. It's really kind of interwoven into who Ursinus is. And I definitely love that about it. As someone that is competitive and was a D1 gymnast, had coaching stints at other D1s, it was good to see. It was good to feel that at a D3. I wasn't sure what D3 would be like. So it's been great to feel that. And D3's only been improving. So it's been a great time to be a part of the D3 community. As far as our, college buildings, Ursinus was founded in 1869. So a lot of our buildings are some older, beautiful stone buildings. But with that said, we've modernized so much in the recent. So it's a great mix of the old and the new. We have some beautiful science labs. Research is a really big part of our education here. And there's a lot of hands-on practical experience, particularly for those sciences, your pre-health professions majors, if you will, pre-med, pre-PT, nursing, bio, chem, neuro, all of that. And then health and exercise physiology, HEP. That's one of our big departments, particularly for our student athletes. And they're actually housed out of our athletics building that I'm sitting in right now. It's pretty tight as far as kind of, like I said, walking around. You can be end to end pretty quickly. We're also a fully residential college, so that really changes the experience a bit. You're here, you live here, you eat here, you're ingrained just as much in the community as anything. So it's a really unique place.
Yeah. Now, is this all 4 years that students are on campus and they live on campus?
Yeah. So we have a number of different style residence halls or dorms or buildings. So, some are a bit more apartment style in nature, suites, but you're essentially on campus all 4 years, living with one another, learning to live with one another. And that the growth that you see from that is huge.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And also, in regards to, it being like residential, does first, is Ursinus a state college, or is it a private college?
Private college.
Okay. And then do they offer like financial aid in regards to both financial aid, which I'm sure they do, but like academically for those who would want to come, and then having it be a college, is the tuition there pretty reasonable for a student or student athlete to kind of to go? I'm not too familiar with how much colleges versus universities, especially out east, may be, and so could you inform us on that?
Yeah, I would say it's pretty comparable. Um, as a private liberal arts institution, I'll tell you, I mean, sticker prices, I think, across the nation are a bit shocking at times, particularly for, high academic institutions like the Ivies, for example. So, with that said, we do offer a number of scholarships to make it affordable for each, whether it's prospect or prospective student athlete, or just prospective student. A number of our scholarships are stackable as well, but our academic merit scholarships are pretty vast. We have a decent discount rate. So I do think with that, the tuition is reasonable for the families. We always at Ursinus, and I think most institutions would say, like, we always want to make it work for that family if Ursinus is where that student or student athlete wants to attend. The majority of my team, if not all, are on academic scholarship, which, really makes it pretty affordable. As you know, Division III schools can't offer athletic scholarships. So obviously that's not something on the table, but that's across the board for all D3s.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Well,
And
it's cheap across the country though. So
no,
it's
it
that balance. that bubble's got to burst at some point, I hope.
Right. No, definitely. And finding ways to be able to, make it reasonable for the students or student athletes to be able to, you know, continue their education, as well as continuing for those who are student athletes, continuing the sports that they really enjoy without having so much debt, and finding opportunities for them to be able to, bridge the gap, right? And
Yep.
not have to stress so much, but also, finding opportunities to find jobs, or having the university have connections in different fields that could almost help or close to guarantee their students to be able to get jobs post college to
Yes.
start their life. And if they acquired any student debt or anything like that, to be able to pay those off without worrying so much. Right.
Yes. So, like, for example, Ursinus has just about double the national average as far as percentage for acceptance rate for medical school. So we have basically a 93% acceptance rate into medical school after graduating from Ursinus. So, when I say we're known for the sciences, kids definitely see that as appealing. They're headed off to med school right away, graduating medical school, doing residency, starting to, make that money as a doctor, and hopefully in a better setup for the rest of your life.
Right. No, and I think what you mentioned is really important, especially for those who are in those sciences or pre-med. And, because I think that's a daunting task, is trying to get into med school in any field, if it's, nursing, or if it's to be a doctor, or if it's for physical therapy, all the other types of medical sciences and stuff like that. And being able to be somewhere where, like you said, 93%, which is what you mentioned, almost double the acceptance rate. That's huge, right? And that could really make or break it for some people, just because they're really passionate about what they want to do the rest of their life, and using gymnastics as a vehicle, or even just that's just they just may want to go to Ursinus just because that's where they want to go. They love the campus, they love the feel of the town that it's in. And so but I think the academic aspect of those things are super important.
Can't agree more. Yeah, I'm an academic at heart. I was a history major in college because I loved history, and my dad always said I had to have a plan outside of gymnastics, which he was so right. And I planned to be a history teacher with the thought of I can always coach club on, my nights and weekends. But then I very quickly found that teaching 7 to 3 and coaching 3 to 9 and weekends really didn't leave much time for living.
Yeah.
College coaching was always a more of a pipe dream of mine. But I wasn't, an All-American. I wasn't an Olympian. I wasn't somebody that had that pedigree. So I wasn't sure if I would ever get my foot in the door. So yeah, when I went off to college, it was, okay, I'll be a history major.
Yeah.
When I tell people that, some are dumbfounded. But yeah, I mean, I think education is what you go to college for. Gymnastics enriches your experience. It should be a part of you. It shouldn't define you, and certainly shouldn't denote your worth as a human. And as a young woman, gymnastics is fun. It should be fun.
Correct. I'm in total agreement with that. Now, you had mentioned a little bit about your journey, how you were a Division I athlete yourself, but also kind of some of those other things that you had just talked about, not having, the certain pedigree or even just accolades that some do, especially getting into the college world. Can you kind of talk about your journey leading to college, and why you chose where you went and where you went?
Sure. Yeah. So I grew up in southeastern Massachusetts, just about 20 miles from Boston, in a small town called Stoughton. Attended a club gym that, no longer exists, unfortunately, but it was a pretty small club. Had produced a number of men's college gymnasts, and then a couple of female gymnasts as well that went off to college. But We were always a very, very small team. I was coached growing up by Jay Santos, who actually is the head coach at Arizona State now. But he left when I was a sophomore. I'll never let him live this down. He left me. And he sat me down. I was kind of the team leader as a sophomore, and he sat me down and said, Kimmy, I'm leaving. And my initial thought was, well, where are you? What club are you going to? I'll follow you. And he was like, I'm going to coach at Ohio State. And like I referenced, this was a couple of coaching stints prior to now him being at Arizona State. But I was like, no, I can't follow you there as a sophomore. So finished up my high school career, ended up down at James Madison, walked onto the team there. But unfortunately, that was the fall of 2006, where JMU announced they were cutting 11 sports, and gymnastics was one of them. So actually a very similar story to what we're experiencing currently with the Lindenwood situation. So I feel for them. I'll obviously do my damnedest to save their program. But with JMU, unfortunately, they ended up going through and cutting those 11 sports. So I unfortunately didn't finish my college career. I chose to stay at JMU. I had already felt I, found a great group of friends. Most of my team stayed, and, had life set up down there, had moved 12-ish hours from home, and really loved JMU as a school. Again, I made my college decision based off of education and not necessarily gymnastics. Gymnastics was a piece, but so I stayed at JMU, finished out my career, actually dove on the swim team for a year, which was something I dabbled in high school. So dove for a year, was on their club gymnastics team, finishing out my college career, and then moved back to Boston, got into graduate school at Boston University for education. Again, thought being a high school history teacher would be my route, but also recognizing that I was a coach at heart, and coaches are teachers. Teachers are coaches in a lot of ways. So knew that master's would serve me, whether I ended up as a coach or whether I stayed in the classroom. So moved back home, well, not home, but back to Boston, my home city, but lived in the city, coached at MIT at the time, which was a great experience. I was only there for a year, but great experience with them. And then moved down to, like I said, Philadelphia in 2011, took the assistant job at Temple University, and was just thrilled to be coaching college, living out my dream at 24 years old. So started kind of my college coaching career there, and like I referenced, hit at Penn after that, and then I've been here at Ursinus since 2018. So that's just a little about me and my story.
Yeah. Kind of going back to the Lindenwood and how James Madison had closed your dissolved, those. Yeah. Can you speak from your perspective what that kind of did to you, from a student athlete? So then people may have some sort of understanding and hopefully be able to, if there's any way, to be able to positively impact Lindenwood at this time, because we know especially in post, I would say amateur in regards to like your club time or your high school time of sports, and you get into collegiate sports, it becomes a business, right? For certain universities to be able to keep programs, are they income producing programs? Do they, have fans? And when universities start having to think about budgets and stuff like that, a lot of times that's where some of those decisions come from, but a lot of times the human part of it doesn't always get addressed, right? And there's people who are impacted. It's not like a product that you discontinued and then the product doesn't really get its feelings hurt, right? It's the there's people involved in this process, right? There's people who committed, who dreamt about this. There's people's livelihood, the coaches' livelihoods that were dependent on this, and then all of a sudden for it to be taken away, essentially, what did that do for you? And to be able to sympathize and empathize with Lindenwood.
Yeah, it's a great question. I'll say one of the pieces for me that really came during that time was just my adaptability, being flexible, but also recognizing not to take anything for granted. Our team that year had a saying in 06-07, and it went, believe in you, trust in us, play like it's the last time, enjoy the ride. And I've just kind of lived with that, knowing that like that's what you have. You have that experience with your team. And that year, having JMU announce it in the fall, again, similar to Lindenwood, with the guarantee from the university that like, oh, you can have this last season, right? We lived like it was our last time, again, with the hope of saving the programs, collecting money. We protested at the Department of Education at one point because JMU had kind of used Title IX as the reasoning. So we took to that in DC for a bit. We had lawyer appointments after appointments. But with that said, I mean, day in, day out, we still were going in the gym every day for training, playing like it was our last time and enjoying the ride. And I think that made me a more resilient person. I think it made me a more adaptable person, a tougher person. But we leaned on one another, and our coaches took care of us. Our head coach at the time, Roger Burke, had us over at his house multiple times that year, sometimes just to kind of sit and cry or sit and talk about the JMU family. And I can only just encourage, both Lindenwood Gymnastics as well as the other 9 sports, just to kind of keep at it day in, day out. Think about what gymnastics has taught you and decide from there. Kind of, I'm sure kids will transfer, just as at JMU they did. But I'm sure there might be some that decide to stay and and live out their time. Gymnastics is always going to be a part of you, but maybe you're not doing the sport in the same way anymore. But you got to kind of move on with that, just as even when student athletes are able to play their 4 years or compete their 4 years, at some point that sport, for the most of us, does end. And there's life after sport, and to kind of keep that perspective. It's hard though. I was heartbroken, I'll admit. As a 19-year-old, I was heartbroken. And I'm sure, I know that's what they're feeling right now too. And you gotta accept and feel those feelings too. I mean, by no means can you, I'm not certainly advocating for like, pretend it's okay, walk into the gym and train hard. Like, no, you're gonna have days where you just want to sit in the corner and cry because it's been such a big part of your life. And it will remain in one capacity a big part of your life. It's tough.
Yeah. Now, do you feel like not having the opportunity to finish your collegiate gymnastics career influence you wanting to come back and coach gymnastics, or was that something you already wanted to do prior to that decision happening and the program being cut?
Sure. I had always wanted to. My club was one of those clubs that allowed you to work part-time so that you could essentially have a lower tuition rate monthly for your training. So I had been coaching at the gym since I was maybe, I'm going to say 13, 14, helping out with preschool classes and mommy and me, and then kind of working my way up. By the time I was graduating high school, I was kind of coaching the compulsory team and helping out with their practice before my own practice. I was going to the gym right after school to kind of work my 2-3 hours and then train my 4-hour practice, and then work Saturday mornings before my training. That was something that I really enjoyed. And it was a big help financially for my family for gymnastics tuition.
Yeah. No, that's good. And one thing you had mentioned too in your process, even just thought process of, because you weren't Olympian, or you didn't have these other things that you were, I would say blessed to not do. It comes with a certain mindset where where you may think that certain opportunities are not. And the reason why I say is blessed is because it's part of your story and part of your testimony that you can share with other people, that you can come from different places that may not be as normal, or may not be as not necessarily traditional, but may not be the most ideal route, right? But I think it can inspire those who may be in a similar situation, may have had experience to do this, but and I think even for myself, I could talk about that a little bit, because I had an opportunity to kind of volunteer and to coach collegiate gymnastics, but it wasn't because of the things I had done before. It was literally because of a conversation that I chose to have with someone that opened up an opportunity, and can you talk about how your path to becoming a college coach got to that point?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you make a great point. So much of it sometimes is just you're having the right conversation with the right people at the right time. Um, and I do think I was lucky enough to experience some of that. I would say my dreams for college coaching really blossomed, I would say, in the summer of 2007, when I spent the majority of my summer at Woodward Camp. Unfortunately, now no longer a gymnastics camp, but in 2007, it was a pretty big deal, and a lot of college coaches and elite level coaches were still attending, and even some Olympians trained out of Woodward. So I started going partially because, financially, again, my family could never afford to send me to Woodward as a camper or as a gymnast. But it was always a place that you got the brochure in the mail, and I looked and I would dream about going to Woodward. So that summer, when I was able to go and be on staff as a camp counselor, as a cabin counselor, but also a gymnastics coach, I was honored to coach alongside some of the best. Greg Frew at the time was one of our gymnastics directors, and he had coached at William and Mary and at NC State, attended JMU himself. So we shared that bond initially. And I really he took me under his wing, but also coached near great coaches like Anna Sexton out of South Carolina and Dan Kendig, who was at Nebraska at the time. Owen Field was there. So many. I could ramble for days on the number of coaches that I was lucky enough to stand behind and maybe shadow spot, or just listen to corrections that they're giving. Mike Lorenzen was there, and he's just a great gymnastics mind. Jay Campbell, so many great gymnastics technicians that really taught me some of the tricks that I didn't learn because I wasn't your elite level gymnast. So I never competed the Ginger. I barely trained Jaegers into the pit, and it wasn't great for me. Bars wasn't great for me. So, Jay Santos, like I said, had coached me, but he had just started coaching women at the time. So his gymnastics journey was kind of just starting. He had always been a men's coach after being a men's gymnast at UMass back in the day. So seeing, all of these great coaches come through Woodward, that really kicked off, every summer from then on, I spent at Woodward, learning how to coach, learning, alongside what I had learned from grad school of education and differentiating your instruction based on the person standing in front of you and their needs. I tried to pair the two together as best I could. And then, having been coached by someone that inspired me and someone that I really enjoyed to be around, like I wanted to be that for others. And I really just, like I said, like lit a fire for that college coaching realm. I mean, maybe there was a sliver that because JMU had cut the program and I didn't get to finish out, maybe there was a sliver of I wanted more of that atmosphere, because the college gymnastics atmosphere, as we know, is like no other.
Right.
So maybe there was a sliver of I still like wanted more of that. But it was also just the making a difference with the individuals and seeing them blossom and, catch releases on bars again that maybe I never did, and see them light up. And then of course, like helping young women achieve their goals.
Right.
So yeah, that's a little about that.
No, I love it. And I love how you mentioned also some of the people that you saw as mentors who really helped you, shape who you
Yeah.
are and who you are and who you're becoming, through that camp. And I think those camps are great. Another one is Flip Fest, has been a similar type of deal where going there, has connected so many coaches. And as I had mentioned, I think I mentioned this off camera, but I was talking to John McCready, and one of the things he had mentioned is, the reason why he brings the guests that he does is people want to meet their heroes, and not all the time we get to do that, right? We don't get to really meet those people that we see either on TV, or we see and we know because we know they produce these athletes or this and that, or they are coaches at these universities. We don't always get to be in their presence or get to really meet them. And going to places like Woodward or Flip Fest or some of those other camps, you get to meet your heroes, right? You get to meet those athletes that you see, you get to meet those coaches, and you get to rub shoulders with them, and you get to hear them speak, and you can go and ask questions. And I think it really shapes so much of the impact.
Yeah, you're speaking to my heart right now. I'm thinking back. I'm like, I'll never forget when I met Elise Ray. That was a moment for me. That was awesome. She was somebody that I looked at, I watched on TV. That 2000 Olympic team was really for me a team that I looked at a lot. But then even Courtney Kupets Carter. Our relationship started at Woodward. I then later, once she took over at Georgia, I had the opportunity to go coach down at Georgia camp because of
Yeah.
building that relationship from Woodward. Um, just like you said, so many that you look at, and maybe as a young person you idolize, and maybe even incorrectly, because they're humans too, and that's what you learn when you get to spend time with them is they're just like you in so many ways. I got to watch Sam Pezic and Bridget Sloan train at Woodward, and that was awesome. But then like shared an ice bucket with them one day.
Yeah.
Had sprained my and they were in the ice bucket too, and you just sort of had that moment of like, and they were they're younger than me, so it sort of flipped the script a little bit of you
Yeah.
know they're looking at me and I'm like, but you guys, you're big time.
Yeah.
But yeah, those experiences are so special.
No, absolutely. And I think it's really essential. And um, one of the important things for me personally is the experience and the impact that I want to give to anybody I come across, but especially the athletes that I coach, is I want to be a walking example of what it looks like to be a person of character, of good character, good morals, and respect, and who works hard. And so when I speak those things, I have my own personal convictions, but also I can say, hey, this is what I expect from you. These are the standards I expect from you, and these are the standards that the ones at the highest levels are expecting of themselves and from the ones that they're coaching, if those are their coaches. And
Right.
you, you know for you, can you kind of talk about what are some of the key pillars, values that you are instilling in your gymnastics program, and then where did they specifically kind of come from? Was it at home with your parents? Was there specific coaches that really kind of impacted your life, or was it something outside of even sports? Because you had mentioned even the academic side. Was there teachers that were involved that kind of shaped who you are in the way you coach?
Yeah. Gosh, great question. And like you said, there's so much that goes into it. There's so many intertwined pieces. And like I referenced off camera too, there's so many facets of each individual and each human.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try my best to answer that. But of course, as we know, I'm inevitably going to leave something out.
It's
The
all
first thing
good.
that comes to mind, the first thing that comes to mind for me is family. You know, um, I'm going to approach each day in the gym with them as honest as possible, and as caring as possible. I do often, as the head coach, I often take on kind of the mother hen role a little bit. It's been a joke since I took over the program. I call the student athletes my kids. And this was even prior to me having my own kids. Now I have two little ones, but then I was unmarried, no kids, and my athletes have always been my kids in a
Yeah.
way. I'm going to care for them. I'm going to run through the wall for them, advocate for them, and do my damnedest to help them reach their goals, both in the gym and out of the gym. Because like we talked about, kind of going pro in something else, going to med school, getting the job, that is kind of the steps forward. But all kind of coming back to that family being a main pillar. Um, yeah, I urge them often to have open communication, both with me and with one another. We'll kind of have often like a 2-word check-in, which is like a Brene Brown model of like, you got to know where one another's at to be able to support properly, to be able to empower and coach properly. If somebody's head isn't in the gym that day, it's probably best to not be in the gym that day for whatever
Yeah.
reason. Again, recognizing that there's so much bigger than just what we do on bars or on beam or in the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that open communication, I'm always going to bring positivity to the table. Again, I think with that perspective, you can do that. You take a bad turn and it's definitely not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Although
Definitely.
sometimes growing up and depending upon, the culture in which you grew up, gymnastics can be a really intense sport.
Yep.
Sometimes at the detriment to your
Mm.
mindset, and helping at the college level, they're coming to me 17, 18, 19, helping to remind them that, again, it's not their life, and um, it shouldn't define them and absolutely shouldn't be their worth. But so bringing that positivity into the gym and that wide lens. Um, but yeah, just really trying to kind of bring family in everything we do. I
Yeah.
think that's kind of, I'll say, like the biggest pillar really for myself personally, and for our program. I think I obviously learned that at home for sure, initially, but then had some great coaches along the way, had some great mentors and teachers along the way. The JMU history department had some incredible professors that treated me like family. My thesis director would have me at his house to do edits for dinner, over dinner, introduced me to his kids. I would have them, at gymnastics. So some family aspect there. And then I think, again, that Woodward piece, certainly there's a Woodward family We all have a little Facebook group that we still all kind of keep in touch and keep tabs on one
Yeah.
another. So, that support through my life has meant so much and has definitely been the reason that I've gotten to where I've gotten to today. And it's something that, like, when I met my husband, we both shared that. And it's something that now, raising two littles, that's definitely at our core.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And how do you kind of structure that within your program in regards to um your coaches? How do you set up
Sure.
your coaches responsibilities, and kind of even within your team, how do you kind of structure that family aspect and how the team is being led? Like, and what I mean by that is, are they led by captains? Are they led by a committee of people, and how does the family kind of look with everybody's roles?
Oh, great segue. Um, so our staff, I'll start with, as far as our staff leadership, there's myself, there's an assistant coach. Right now we have Brooke Hylick, who is an Eastern Michigan grad, um, came to us down from Michigan, a Michigan native as well. And this is her second season. Then we have a second assistant, Alyssa Delorme. She's a volunteer. She's in at practice with us just about twice a week. Um, she was one of our student athletes. She was an all-arounder for us, competed all 4 years, was a really strong gymnast, All-American at the D3 level. Also our uneven bar record setter here, which was exciting. She was also my very first recruit as a head coach here at Ursinus.
Love
So
it.
that was, has been really special. Um,
Yeah.
she is planning to head off to PT school. This was kind of her gap year. So
Okay.
unfortunately, I don't think I'll have her for long, but it's been great this year to have an additional set of eyes in the gym when we can. So that's kind of our formal staff leadership. We also have a full-time athletic trainer who's in with us. That person, again, my family feel like that person kind of gets looped in to staff as well, and a member of the family. Certainly they're spending a lot of time with our student athletes. So that's been great to have here at Ursinus. I know a lot of D3s don't have full-time athletic trainers with their program, and that's been something that's been special here at Ursinus. We got that position in 2019. We had a graduate assistant prior to that, and then we got a full-time position, which has been awesome. Within the team itself, we rely a lot on our seniors for leadership each year. So we had captains my first year. They had already been named by the prior head coach, so it certainly wasn't a title I was going to take from them, and they were great leaders. I was happy to have them. But after they graduated, we moved to more of a team of equals, and everybody has strengths and can lead in different ways. And when I have things I go to for the team, like I'm going to my seniors, I'm picking out gear, I'm going to my seniors. We are talking about what we want to wear on the bus for a travel day, I'm going to my seniors. And that's been really special in the years past. This year we have 3 seniors. They are the seniors that the last class that was here during the COVID pandemic, so they missed a year of competition. So I think this year has been particularly sweet for them. But yeah, so they kind of organize a lot of our, I'll say, like, team bonding, team events. I like to have most of that come organically, or again, within the team, versus us as a staff saying, like, you will have team bonding this day.
Right.
So that kind of happens within the team, and the seniors have done a great job with that this semester, making different events for the team to spend time with one another. So that's sort of our structure, if you will. I'm certainly not opposed to captains, and I've even toyed with the idea of a leadership council with kind of one from each class. I've found in my individual meetings with the team, we do beginning, middle, and end at least at minimum, with all of our athletes. And I've found that they're really enjoying this style with having no captains. And we come together as a team at the end of the day, and I'll give the seniors kind of the opportunity to like rap practice and share anything they'd like, shout outs maybe, inspirational pushes maybe, but we also open the floor for everyone,
Yeah.
so if a sophomore has to say, they have that opportunity, and so on. So it's worked well.
Yeah. No, I love it. And do you guys have your own facility on campus that you guys practice at? And also, in regards to competition, is your competition arena on campus?
Yes. So I'm in my office right now. I can look right this direction to windows that go into our training facility. So we're right here on campus. So pretty close, I would say, again, kind of max 10-minute walk from where any student athlete lives. And then our arena, we compete in our main gym, our main arena on campus. It's where men's and women's basketball, wrestling, volleyball, men's and women's wrestling, I should say, volleyball. Everybody competes out of that main arena, which actually is connected to our training facility. We have one
Okay.
of those walls, semi-permanent walls that opens up for when we have gymnastics meets, and we kind of pull equipment out into main gym. So it's a great environment to compete in.
Yeah.
It's pretty intimate, which is fun. It gets loud. It's a blast. We
Yeah.
have the opportunity to actually host our NCGA national championships. So I'm pumped to do that. We won the bid last year. We hosted the East regionals last year. So that was a great kind of warm up to hosting nationals this year. So we're really
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah, and you had mentioned NCGAs. For those who may not know, what does that stand for? And also,
Yeah,
you also mentioned the East. What are you referring to as the East? And what um, other other programs are part of that East side of the
sure.
conference?
Yeah, so the NCGA is the National Collegiate Gymnastics Association, and I would say it holds most of the Division III institutions across the country. Um, the East is the conference in which Ursinus for gymnastics competes within, and those schools, Rhode Island College, SUNY Brockport, SUNY Cortland, Ithaca College, Springfield College, and now the newly founded Utica will also be a part of the NCGA East, and of course ourselves. So we're kind of spread out between Massachusetts, New York, Pennsylvania, we're the furthest south. Um, and then we compete against sort of the western side, I'll say the WIAC, which is the UW schools, those Minnesota, Iowa in there. And we have some unattached D3 teams, again, newly founded schools with Simpson and Greenville, and then Centenary is another D3 school down in Louisiana.
Yeah, very cool. I'm
Yeah.
fortunate enough to be able to have experienced the energy that the nationals bring. In 2018, I was fortunate to be at the University of Wisconsin Whitewater, and we were at Springfield College for nationals that year. And so I can attest to the what you're about to go through and the energy that it brings, and also how much work it probably is, but it's a cool opportunity to be able to host, that championship and really bring the D3 community all together and really have a great competition. It's very competitive, which and being able to kind of see both sides, the Midwest and, seeing the teams out East and really compete for that, spot of national champion.
Yeah. And I would say the parity has only been increasing, and I mean, it's a great time to be a D3 member and a D3 student athlete right now. The level at which these young women are competing is so high. I think back to, when I went off to college and, you know, walked on at a D1, but truthfully, maybe D3 would have been a better fit at that point. But now I think back and I'm like, gosh, I don't even know that I couldn't be a D3 gymnast today. Like, I
Mm.
mean, the twisting vaults, the major releases on bars, the dismounts, 2D tumbling passes on floor. It's been really exciting. And
Yeah.
on the recruiting, looking nationally at mostly level 10s. With that said, like, again, with family at my forefront, like, fit is the most important to me. So I'm not solely looking at those level 10s and those big gymnastics skills. I'm more looking at fit, but
Yeah.
um that high level is just incredible right now. It's been really
Yeah.
exciting, and I can only hope that we're on our way as well. I think when I took over the program in 2018, if you had asked me my 5-year plan would have said, like, let's win that national championship. And here I am, year 6. We haven't done it yet. I'll also add a little asterisk of like COVID and the pandemic falling right in the middle of my tenure, but no excuses. So,
Yeah.
that's certainly on our radar and certainly what we're vying for. And it's been exciting to be landing some recruits that are going to help us get there.
Yeah.
But the parity is incredible at that nationals the last couple of years.
Yeah. And do you guys mostly get athletes from the eastern part of the US, or are you guys able to recruit outside? Because part of this, I also want to, have people who might be outside of the geographical location of Philadelphia or even, that eastern part of the United States to be able to hear about it and have opportunities to, look into it and possibly make, Ursinus a home for them to
Yeah,
continue
yeah.
pursuing their gymnastics career, but also their academic.
Right, right. We do recruit nationally. I've had the opportunity to work a number of different camps out on the West Coast. Shout out Supergirl Camp in California. Love that one out of the Bay Area. And that has kind of opened the doors to some recruits out there. Right now on our team, we range from a number of different states. We have an Oregon student athlete, New Mexico, Kentucky. We do hit, a number of these New England states as well: New Hampshire, Massachusetts, New York, PA, Jersey, the Carolinas, Maryland in there too. So it's widespread. Um, we've been lucky enough to attend DP Nationals every year, so have had eyes on some of those top tier athletes as far as on the recruiting side. So I'm excited for the WCGA is putting on showcases this coming summer for the first time, and there'll be one in the West and one in the East, and we plan to have staff at both. So it's been great to be able to pull nationally. We even have one international on our team this year. She actually is from the UK originally, but grew up training in Singapore out of the yard. And she's a student athlete that I met coaching out in California. So it's been great to be able to pull from kind of all over the country and opening up to globally.
Yeah. No, I think that's really good and really important, like you said. The diversity in geographic location, but also, um, the diversity of even countries, like you said, which I think it's been huge. I talked to the now head coach of Stout, and in
Yep.
her, we kind of had a conversation about how there's a lot of athletes who are, at this time able to have more international experience due to, either dual citizenship and stuff like that, where a lot of times it seemed like, kids from outside of United States would be coming to the US to do sports, where now you can go represent your country, and you might have been raised in the US, but your parents, are from another country, and, being able to hopefully bring more eyes to the sport of gymnastics and kind of, make it bigger in, worldwide, right? And even bring more attention to college gymnastics.
Yeah. Yeah.
How many athletes do you guys carry currently on your team, and what is the range that you like to be at?
Sure. Our roster is 22 this year, which is one of the bigger teams that I've had since taking over. We've been as small as 17, 18. Well, we might be a little bit bigger even next year, only graduating 3. I would say the perfect range for me would be that, like, yeah, 19 to 23, I'll say, kind of that
Yeah.
range. I feel like that's the perfect amount to have depth, because things do happen as far as injuries, as well as even just generally needing more depth to choose from, be able to give kids rest when they need it. So that kind of 19 to 22, 23 enables us to do that.
Yeah. And do you guys find opportunities to, have people compete? Because I know, well, for those who know, in college gymnastics, 6 up, 5 count, right? And and then you have your all-arounders and stuff like that. But sometimes, when you have a roster that big, you're not going to go and have all those spots, be someone different all the time. You may have
Sure.
3 all-arounders that take up, 12 spots, right? And now you have 12 other ones that you're trying to fill up. So how do you guys kind of navigate your roster size and, opportunities to compete? Will everybody have some sort of either exhibition that they can, participate in, or is it truly, who's the best 6 are going to compete no matter what?
Yeah. It's a little bit of both, to be honest. Can I promise or guarantee you an opportunity? No. You have a job to do, right?
Yeah.
I can promise you that you'll be considered for the opportunity 100%. And we will map out over the summer and at the beginning of the year, like, what that will take, as well as, like, what are the individual's goals. I think for the most part, I would say between exhibitions, because a lot of meets that we participate in, we're actually allowed to exhibition 2, which is huge. So we'll have our 6, and then we'll have 2 more exhibitions. And I often do use those for kind of those next up, or someone that's just earned it, has really put the work in, and maybe even a senior that has earned it over their time here. But I would say, again, kind of in speaking to the parity piece, like, the majority of our student athletes on our team are all lineup contenders. It's kind of a any given Sunday type of scenario, which makes for a really great environment in the gym.
Yeah.
Kind of all pushing one another. And I think, those that are really ready to compete, have those 10-0 start values, or on vault kind of highest start values, and then have the consistency and cleanliness pieces, like, those are the 6 that are going to compete. I'm going to put the team in the best position to be qualifying to nationals, to be getting our highest score to go towards our season or but with that said, like, I hope that we have the competitive nature where there is a week where I can mix it up.
Yeah.
That's the dream, right? Is you have, I'll say, like, 9 or 10 individuals that are plug and play, and you're just kind of pushing for the right 6.
Yeah.
I hope that we're in a position like that this year.
Yeah. I
Things are
love it.
looking good right now. Exciting.
Hey, no, that's very exciting. I think that's really important. And like you said, having a team of contenders that can compete at any time really levels it up. And with the goal that you had set in mind to win nationals, that's what you need, is having, everybody who's capable and willing to do that, right? And
Yeah.
being in Pennsylvania, there's a lot of gymnastics programs, being even close to Philadelphia, having the division ones like Rutgers, and having, or near, I guess, near Philadelphia, having Rutgers close, having Temple that's close, and then also having Penn State and Penn, are you guys able to see them during the regular season and compete against them a lot of times? And when competing against some of those schools, especially some of those division one, what does it do to your team? Does your team rise up to the occasion, get really excited to compete against those schools? And can you kind of talk about that?
Sure. Yeah. We are really conveniently located. And it's really special. I know, the YX schools and even some of those New York schools we talked about earlier, they kind of only always see the same people, or we have the ability to kind of keep it within our budget to see a number of different people every year. We still will always see kind of our East competitors, whether we host them, whether we go. But then you're right, we do have the opportunity to do some more D1, D2 meets, and actually have those be, better, shorter travel, if you will.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see Westchester. We host Westchester for Senior Day this year, actually. Um, we will go up to Rutgers for a quad meet with Cornell and um, somebody else there. We're going up to Bridgeport this year for a Friday night meet where we'll actually get to see Alaska. We'll be down at Temple for a quad meet with them. So it's exciting, and the team loves it.
Yeah.
They love to see some of those bigger stages. Last year we competed at GW, and the exposure to, we were over there with it was Western Michigan and Bowling Green. And it was just such a great quad meet. It was particularly special because the head coach at Bowling Green, Carrie, is an Ursinus alum. She was an Ursinus gymnast. So we had a little meet and greet with her before the meet. She took pictures with the team. So it's special for the team to get to experience both, the intimate venues with our D3 competitors, as well as some of those bigger stages. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. No, I love it. What is your guys' mascot? And then what is kind of the saying that you guys have, or like your war cry?
Ooh. So mascot is bear. We're the Bears. A good brown bear. I was like looking around for a picture of him here. Water bottle. This guy.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
Love it.
good roar. Um, war cry, we don't really have a traditional war cry, I'll say. Um, we'll have a number of kind of breakouts that we'll have at the end of practice daily. After lift every day, it's big guns. We, we've broken out to just the simple like UCG, we've broken out to bears. I will say the addition to a lot of our breakouts has been just like this roar, and we like pull with the claws out and everybody's roaring, and it's like your long held roar until like you can't breathe anymore. So that's been a little fun addition. There are some traditional cheers that have been passed down through generations of Ursinus College gymnasts and alumni that the team will do pre-meet, which is really special. But yeah, no true kind of one war cry, if you will.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Is there anything you want to leave to the listeners, the viewers, about your sinus, about the college, about you, and just whatever message that you want to leave the listeners and viewers with?
Oh, I would just say, support NCAA gymnastics. If you have a program near you, go check it out. It's a great activity to do with the kids. Hit up a weekend meet, or a Friday night under the lights meet. So support your local programs, and then just continue to look at gymnastics as fun. Recognize why you do it, why you fell in love with it in the first place. It should be fun. It should be enriching. it shouldn't feel like a job. If it feels like a job, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
It's got to be fun. You got to enjoy it. You put too much in to not enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast and taking time to talk about your university, your personal passions, and your personal story and how it's impacted your journey as a head coach at Ursinus.
Thank you for having me. This has been awesome. And like I said, the fact that you've been willing to not only do these heated conversations with, Nebraska and Auburn, but to also do them with lacrosse and with Stout and with Ursinus, I'm honored to be on.
Absolutely. No, I think everybody's deserving to, everyone has a story, is deserving to do it. And not even just about deserving. I think everybody's story should be heard, especially in this realm of gymnastics in all levels. And so I'm the one honored to be able to kind of get to learn more about you guys and shine light on your university, and hopefully be a positive resource and impact for the university, as well as the future athletes, parents, and coaches that get to view these and listen to these.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Well, thank you for joining in on another episode of Heated Conversations. Just like Kim had mentioned, to support, NCAA gymnastics. In recent years, there's been a lot of new programs that have been kind of coming forth in regards to being created. But at the same time, there's also other universities like Lindenwood that are losing the sport of gymnastics as part of their university. And we want to come together as a community and help support to be able to allow these athletes and these coaches to continue doing what they love and to share this awesome sport and share who they are through their performances, and to be able to use the sport that they love to be able to impact society and impact the fields that they're going to go in. Just like Kim also mentioned, they're going to be hosting the D3 Nationals. If you're in the Philadelphia area, you should go there. You'll be able to really see what Division III gymnastics is about. And find some time, find an opportunity to go out. And even if you're not in the Philadelphia area, that'd be a great time to see a plethora of Division III. And really, at the time, it'll be the top teams in Division III that are competing, and it'll give you a glimpse of what it'll look like and hopefully get you excited to be a part of it if that's something that is an opportunity for you. Well, thank you again for tuning in, and please subscribe, share, like, and comment. And you guys are the ones that are really going to make the difference in this. And thank you for being a part of this journey. You guys have a great one. We'll see you guys on the next episodes.